So I shot him right there. And I jumped him right there.
And which way did he go?
That way, away from me, but we have no idea. I think he circled. Going to be standing up.
It looks like it's easier.
All right, guys.
$3.
One day,
Same tree.
same tree.
Oh my god, I'm so
Woo!
Holy shit! Get a shot of these.
2 farms this year. Number 1 is done.
Did you say bye, Kevin?
I did. I already did. Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin.
Bye, Kevin. Bye, Kevin.
Smoked it, buddy. Look at that. You destroyed it.
Joey takes the shop is closing up.
Make sure he takes all his right antlers. All right, guys. Welcome to the Deer Shop Podcast, episode 28. As always, brought to you by Siman Brothers Outdoors and the Leaky Jumbo Company. Please leave a review, comment, whatever app or service you're listening this to. It really helps us out. We have a good one this week. I'm pretty excited for it. We were joined in the shop by Chris Toth of Skyhound Drone Services. Chris is a local here to us drone operator, thermal drone operator. We got to see him in action this year during gun season, and lots of topics we can talk about today. Drones are real big right now in the outdoor hunting industry and fire department use and all kinds of, there's a bunch of stuff that kind of tie in with us perfectly. So I'll let Chris introduce himself. Welcome to the Deer Shop.
Thanks for having me. Like I said, Chris Toth is my name. I run Skyhound Drone Services. We're running the M30T thermal drone, which a lot of guys are using. We just do, obviously, deer recovery. We look for lost pets and deer herd analysis, and going to get into a little bit of the roofing stuff in the off-season, maybe thermal roof inspections, stuff like that. But obviously the main thing is I like to do is deer recovery because I'm a hunter, and it's fun to do.
Yeah, it has. It's really exploded here in the last couple years, this drone recovery thing. And we did try today to get a dog tracker on here too. We have another local guy that's a dog tracker, but he was unable to join us. I think his kids were sick, and we're doing this on a Monday morning, so our schedules are a little bit different. Yeah, our schedules are a little bit different than most people's. But Chris has a big advantage because he works for the FAA, Air Traffic Controller.
Yeah.
So he's pretty well versed on the laws and the regulations and how all this works, and he deals with things in the air every single day.
Yeah, certainly do.
Do you think that gives you maybe like a slight advantage, or obviously it's probably helpful a little bit for what we're doing or what you're doing here?
Everyone has to go and take the same test. I had to study a little bit, and I went and passed it. Other guys have a little bit more trouble with it. But, yeah, it did give me a slight advantage as far as that goes. But drone flying isn't, honestly, too difficult. It's the thing will just hover there. You move it a couple hours, and anybody can pretty much do this.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, because I've been flying this little drone for a while, and I fly a big drone like this for work, that you're not really flying the drone.
Yeah.
It's flying, you're just telling it where to go.
Yeah.
It's not like a helicopter.
It's literally like a video game with joysticks. You're just telling it where to go.
And you guys both have the same certification then?
Yeah, I believe so. The Part 107.
Part 107.
Yeah, so that's the license you need to fly drones commercially.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to technically show any drone video in our YouTube stuff without Isaac doing that legally because of profits and some weird laws like that. But.
Yeah, and this never used to be a problem, but there's a couple of people I watch on YouTube that were big into the drones, like a lot of the vloggers and travel video people like that. And the FAA never used to crack down, but I guess starting 2 or 3 years ago, they started sending out cease and desist emails to these people that if they didn't have their 107, they were going to shut them down and fine them and blah, blah, blah. So it has been a big thing lately for all these YouTubers to get their Part 107.
Yeah. And that was a big belief in the drone recovery business. There's so many startups happening. Everyone's like, no, there's no way all these people have these licenses.
Yeah.
And I actually made
right.
this list of people in Ohio.
37 on this list of guys.
And honestly, I turned probably 4 away due to, like, they didn't want to submit the license to me.
Okay.
You know, there's a website you can look it up on the FAA website if someone has their drone license or not. Sometimes they would pop up on there and sometimes not. Mine didn't come up on there, but I knew I had it, you know. But yeah, there's like 4 or 5 people that just wouldn't send me the license, but
so
it was a lot less than I thought. You know, I was like, there's no way all these dudes took their 107, but yeah, I mean, people are doing it.
So there's, if you're a local person watching or listening, you know, like a Medina County Hunters type guy or someone local here in Ohio, I have a list that I run on that page, and then I can get to people of all the dog trackers in the area, and it's like 40-some dog trackers in and around Ohio, and then I'll get the PDF copy of this or the Word document of this, and I'll post this up, so we'll always have we'll have all the drones and all the dogs available for anyone that's local and then wants to utilize these services. But
yeah, there's more guys that I have in the queue to get added to the list. It was getting just kind of crazy.
Yeah,
you know, like people were like texting me every day, like, hey, can I get on the list? And I just updated it, and then it's like sending new copies out to everybody. So I just decided it's like, hey, I'll do it in the fall and then maybe after season, like twice a year or something. But more people are going to be getting on.
It really blew up. I mean, this year, I know it started last year. You know, the Mike Yoder, I think his name's Mike Yoder, right?
Deer Drone Recovery.
Okay. He's the guy that kind of got it onto social media with his viral reels and Instagram clips and
that
his
was
YouTube
probably
channel.
like 3 years ago,
2 or 3. Because I remember we met him at one of the shows. He does the open season or the all seasons open expo in Columbus, and we've seen him there a few times. And he really got the ball rolling on this, and he made some pretty interesting videos off the rip where he was finding some really big deer and helping people, and it kind of took legs quickly because I enjoy. We've used dogs and drones now for deer tracking, and I enjoy the what you would call it, the man's best friend, using a dog in the woods to help you, but in the back of my mind, as a bow hunter and property manager, I'm thinking, there's 8 of us in here following a dog around. Like, this property ain't gonna be shit to hunt for 3 days now. The drone eliminates a lot of that.
Yeah,
like instantly.
It's very non-intrusive as opposed to running the dog through there. But the dogs have their benefits too. If there's no heat to the deer, the drone ain't gonna find it.
Right. A couple
3-4 days later, I mean, a dog could still likely pick up that scent.
Yep.
And it seems like the barrier of entry has kind of decreased a little bit with, I think it was this drone that came out maybe 2 or 3 years ago, because before that you had to have a Mavic 30 or whatever or a Matrice 30, which is like a $30,000-$40,000 drone.
Yeah, that was a $20,000 drone. As that sits right now, it's about $9,000.
Yeah, so the price is
and a battery set.
The price has gone down a lot
by half.
So,
yeah, a couple of these guys I've talked to, I forget which one, but yeah, he paid over $20,000 for that setup right there. A year ago.
But talk about your services a little bit, because it is a business, so you are making money, or you want to make money in the future. So when someone calls you, you come out with your drone and you start looking for their deer, and you charge them by the hour. Do you charge them by coming out there?
It's basically I'll charge $300 to come out.
Okay,
and an extra $100 if I find the deer. I haven't thought about raising my prices at all. I feel like that's a pretty fair price point, because sometimes I'll go out and search, and that price is like, I'll search for about 3 hours, and after that it might be X amount extra. I haven't really quite figured that out yet, but usually if 3 hours,
the room as you go,
3 hours is usually more than ample to search an area. And if I'm, at that point, if I'm searching longer, I'm moving positions to search other areas because I'm losing signal.
Okay.
At that point, at 3 hours in.
So that doesn't seem like an awful high cost for, your fuel, the cost of the drone, the cost of your license, your experience, all that. And it seems, is that kind of on par with the dog? I can't remember what we paid for the dog.
I think it's about similar. I think the dogs are all between like $300-$400 to have them come out. That's roughly the going rate for all of this stuff around here.
Yeah.
The nice part about Chris is how long of a drive was it?
10 minutes.
Yeah,
he's close to us.
That makes it real nice. Like 10 minutes down the street if you need a guy. Like I said, technically we haven't utilized you, but 2 people that we run in circles with have utilized you this year. Yeah. You found, well, actually, you didn't find the one deer, but he was alive. So the first one was in our Deer Camp Chronicles episode, the home farm gun season 1, and it was a buck bird's nest that ended up getting taken by Gavin. We've already had we're actually watching it in the background here. We've had it. He was on the podcast to kind of talk about it. That was our first experience with it. You came out in some terrible weather.
Yeah.
Terrible weather in the middle of the night,
brutal.
basically. It was, I mean, I don't know, middle of the night. It was like 8, 9
10
o'clock, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
You came out and flew, and you found a bunch of deer that night, but with the wind and everything, I mean, it was a blizzard, and you're running your drone up in the air.
Yeah.
It was a little bit rough. The neighbor had shot at this buck and wounded him. He had found blood, but, had jumped him once from a bed, so he backed out. You came back the next day and did a very thorough search.
Yeah.
I wasn't there for that one because I was getting ready to do some hunting and stuff, but you came back the next day, did a very thorough search, and found a whole bunch of deer.
Mm-hmm.
Never found that buck, but he was alive somewhere, so who knows where he was on his feet at that point.
So that buck ended up getting killed several months later.
Yeah, right,
So,
yeah.
I mean, the chances are it could have been a different buck that was shot. And
We don't know for sure. And either way, the buck that, even if it wasn't, maybe we've theorized that it's possibly a different deer that got shot because we'll never know at this point.
Yeah.
And the buck that got, when this buck that in question ended up being killed, he didn't appear to have any wounds on him. But even if he wasn't the one that got injured, he still somehow evaded,
Yeah.
the drone search. But
I did find a deer back 300 yards from where he had jumped the
a bedded buck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was there after you guys had left the night prior, and he was about 20 yards from there in the morning. So I couldn't see any wounds on him. I don't know if it was coincidence, but there was a buck in the area hanging out that I'd found both days.
Well, I don't have my watch, and we got 5 days left, 6 days before the season ends, and then I'll be trekking. I'll be doing my shed hunting rounds, and I'll be able to thoroughly investigate that area probably. So we'll see. But then recently but someone in our group used you, and you were able to find. Did you find him pretty quickly? I guess I didn't get the full details on how fast you found him, but
we found a buck initially. It was acting funny, acting like it was hurt. So I spent a good amount of time hovering over this thing, trying to get different angles.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, the thing stands up. And Matt ends up going over there and checking the bed. He's like, yeah, there's a little bit of blood here. And I was still on him with the drone, and I could physically see his paw was swollen.
Yeah.
I was like, he looks like he's got a hurt paw. I don't know if that's going to be your deer or not.
right.
I mean, we're talking just little, pinhole size pieces of blood.
Yeah, like
and
a leg wound.
Yeah.
You would think a leg wound would
Yeah,
look
basically,
like.
we determined his paw was swollen. There's no way it did that in 8-10 hours since it was shot.
So
or
that was
whatever.
basically
So
just an injured deer.
another injured deer had a thorn in its hoof or something like that. But 10 minutes later, we ended up finding another buck, and Matt's like, that looks like the deer. We hover around him for a while. He eventually stands up, and then he's standing there for a minute, and then I just noticed the snow just starts painting red. I'm like, hey, he's bleeding really good.
We saw some videos of that.
Yeah.
He was sending us Snapchats and stuff, and you see the deer stand up and the blood just like spraying all over the
Oh,
place.
dude.
And that ended up being a rear leg wound.
Yeah, the crossbow limb had hit the blind when it fired. The arrow went all crazy going out of the bow.
Pulled at one side, it seems.
Yep. Hit both the back legs with the blade, sliced it open. The one joint on the leg, rear leg, I can't remember which one. Almost the leg was getting ready to come off of there. It sliced the joint open you're cutting one up in the shop. It was just kind of hanging there.
That artery, in a human, it goes behind the knee.
Yeah.
That's the popliteal artery or something like that. So
Nerve.
that must have got sliced. And that's why he was bleeding like
He was spraying out of both legs, so whatever they hit, I mean, he had arterial/venous bleeding on both legs.
Yeah.
And he actually consulted 2 veterinarians and showed him the video, and he's like, hey, is this deer going to live or not? Because we couldn't quite see the extent from, the air. It goes, I mean, we could see pretty good what was going on, but one vet was like, yeah, that deer is not going to live without medical attention. The other one said, it's possible, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's the weird thing, when it comes to deer, leg wounds are all over the place. Every year we have 2 or 3 deer that have some kind of major leg wound. Some survive. We've had deer that have lost legs completely. We had a doe that was missing an entire leg, and she ran around this property for half a decade or more. We had another buck that was missing everything from the elbow down. He lived to be 7.
Yeah, he got hit by a car or something. His leg was hanging for 6 months, finally fell off completely.
Oh, my gosh.
And then he was running around. We got
6 more years of him after that.
So
I
I missed him once. We got a bunch of sheds
6
from him.
sheds on the shelf back here. That deer lived that long missing a leg. I just found a buck last couple days ago shed hunting. The only visible wound he had was a completely destroyed back right leg. He was dead. It doesn't look like he had any other wounds on his body besides that busted up leg. So the infection must have got him. We got another deer that's been wounded. The one we tracked with the dog that we were going to bring in here. He is still alive, but his leg's about as big around as a cinder block right now.
Yeah, it's like
we have a doe on our farm with a big messed up leg. So these leg wounds, some are fatal, some are not. Some cause weird rack genetics. Some don't. Like there's deer that run around with messed up legs, and they have, you know, two good sides. So it's tough to say. But regardless, you went back a couple times.
Yeah.
To look at that deer over a period of days, you were going back and checking and still finding him.
Yeah, found him every day.
And then Matt actually ended up having to take this deer eventually when he was able to finally take him. He did end up taking him, putting his tag on him for the year, wounded buck. But that deer lived at least it was 3 or 4 days after the initial shot.
It was 5.
How far did he travel?
It seemed like he was staying in the same general area where he felt safe. I don't know if you saw the video I posted, but there was coyotes in the area, which I was actually surprised.
I didn't see anything with the coyotes.
And the coyotes never went after him?
No, there was 5 of them over there right off of.
Just waiting. We'll put a note. Edit out the road name. But
oh, sorry about
no,
that.
You're fine. But yeah, so like I've wondered about that too. You know, we've had, I mean, in our, you know, we've all been hunting a very long time. We've had deer that have leg problems. The one that I was talking about with the buck that we had for 7 years, I think he eventually succumbed to a coyote. He showed up in the summertime with some wounds on his backside. Mm-hmm. He was in velvet, bloody wounds on his backside. And there was lots of coyotes on camera around that area, and then he eventually disappeared. And we never actually found his carcass, which is kind of weird.
And it's so weird with the coyotes because sometimes they'll go after our wounded deer, sometimes they won't. And then sometimes you'll see them chasing around completely healthy deer.
Right. We've had coyotes eat deer still alive after we've shot them. We had that West Virginia buck a few years ago. They got eaten alive after it got shot by coyotes. Within hours, they'd already eaten a quarter of this deer up, and we had just shot him, you know. And we're letting them lay for the track job. And then we've had other ones we've had deer carcasses in the woods of the deer. Mm-hmm. It's weird, you know.
It's almost like they're a fly on the wall sometimes. They see this deer and they can tell it's wounded, and they just follow it, you know. They get that scent of blood in the air.
And that there's that like survivalist risk reward type, like, you know, is it worth my time to try and kill this deer now, you know, or should I just move on because there's food everywhere?
Or should I wait a week and eat it after it dies?
I don't know if you guys saw the Ashland flintlock buck I recovered. About 2 weeks,
I know.
I
know who. I know the gentleman that I've met him a few times.
Yeah.
Dakota Osborne.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've met him a few times. Nice
but in
guy.
that video, the coyote, maybe 100 yards away, he was sitting there stretching out on the ground like he's getting ready to go in there. I mean, he's preparing himself. He had shot one deer, and there was another wounded deer in there that I found, and it was sitting there kicking and dying. It looked like it was shot in the neck.
Yeah.
And you know that coyote was maybe 50 yards from that doe that I had found. Wounded.
We had. That brings up story time with Caleb like always. But last year when Freeman shot his buck last year, we only let that deer lay, and it was early October,
maybe 2.
Yeah, we let that deer lay 2 hours. We get there, and right when we got to him, we're like, oh man, his guts were all pulled out, like he'd been disemboweled, and then so we just start shining our lights around, and there was 3 coyotes about 100 yards away, just
staring at us.
We're in a bean field, and their eyes would go above the beans, they go down, and then they pop up over here. We had bumped them off their carcass, and they're just waiting for us to leave, you know.
Yeah, like a vulture in a car.
So I guess it just depends on the coyote's mood that day.
Yeah,
because there's no shortage of food around here.
No. I mean,
there's no coyote starving.
There's been 4 roadkill deer within sight of the door of the shop this year.
Yeah, there's one right there now. New one.
4th one. That's crazy. You know, there's unlimited food, but. How many track jobs did you do this year?
I'd have to get my logbook out. I'd say with Matt, it was probably 10.
Okay.
For deer, and I probably recovered 7 of them. I think there might have been 3 I couldn't find.
Yeah.
Including the one close to here.
Yeah, that ended up.
Where I was kind of looking for the wrong deer.
Yeah, he's dead right there.
Yeah.
I see him on the table, so no harm, no foul on that one.
Yeah, so that wasn't like a miss. That was just the deer wasn't dead.
Yeah, and he could have. And you guys, I know that night or that next day, you guys did a pretty good sized search and found a lot of deer. But I mean,
I was there from 7:30 to noon. I think
it was. We know their ranges are so big that like it's very easy. He could have slipped on the other side of, you know, this road or this river or this lake or whatever. And,
well, while we're talking about those recoveries, of those 10 recoveries that you did, or 10 tracks you did, which deer went the furthest? Like, what was the furthest you went from like the initial place of the shot?
Honestly, I think all the ones I found were within 300 yards.
Oh, really? So they were pretty fatal, pretty good shots.
Yeah.
Were these guys calling you because they were just wanted extra assurance, or did they already look and couldn't find anything? Maybe not a very good blood trail. You know, 300 yards isn't very far.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Some people were like, I don't want to risk pushing it. Like there was a guy I did in Wellington that they had wounded the buck. I don't even know if they tracked it very far before they called me. Mm-hmm. He knew I was around. He's like, you know what, let's just call him. And then I ended up going over there and finding it. It took me about half hour maybe, but I did locate it, and then it was still alive. He went there in the morning, and it wasn't dead in the bed, but it was still there.
Right.
And he ended up putting a finishing shot on that because it was obviously dying. But that was probably the biggest buck I found this year.
Okay, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that brings up. I mean, there's a couple different things I want.
Well,
to go
just
into,
to go
but-
off of that, you always wonder. People say they track their deer for a mile. Are they tracking it for a mile because that's how far it ran, or is it because they're constantly pushing it and pushing it and pushing it?
Yeah.
Because obviously the drone doesn't do that because you're hovering it.
Yeah. The last one I didn't find, I will say, it was bumped twice out of a bed before they decided to call me.
Yeah, you're reeling in slack at that point.
Yeah.
Like it's not good.
He calculated, I searched 1,800 acres
Damn.
of land for that deer.
And I would assume that's
he
about the size of a deer's range on average.
He had me come
around
out
there.
twice to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah. I was like, man, if I'm not feeling good about it, I sometimes try to discourage people from doing it, and they're basically, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I was going to get into that. You're going to these kind of interactions because one of the guys on our crew, Alex, who's been on the podcast a couple times, he's been going back and forth on buying one of these since they were $28,000, and obviously that was a major investment for him back then. But now, as these things get cheaper, he's been thinking. But you see a list like this with 37 other operators on it.
Yeah.
A lot of people have had that idea.
How much is it going to be able to pay itself off? Now I know, speaking with Ben, the dog tracker that we were supposed to have here today, I know like last year and the year before, I think he was doing 40 to 50 tracks a season. Now I don't know how many he did this year and if his number's going down because of just how busy he is in life and or because now people are using drones. But I mean, if you're going to do 40 or 50 tracks, it'll pay for itself pretty quick.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of work.
Drone guys I've talked to, pretty much every one of them, they're like, yeah, I've been turning down work, and I was too. Seems like everyone shoots bucks are like, there's a good night of movement. That's when you get all the calls.
You'll get 10 calls probably.
Yeah. And it's like, I ended up throwing, tracks to other people
Right.
that I knew or met making the mat.
And I'm pretty sure it's pretty standard in your guys' like little subgroup here. Like the drone, any drone operator you call will throw you to another one if you can.
Yeah,
it's helping each other out because
that Ashland one came from Aerial View, which he's somewhere around here, but he lives all the way in the northwestern part of the state.
So
a lady
Pennsylvania
called
area.
him
Wow.
from Ashland.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, there's a guy a lot closer.
Yeah.
And so he threw me that track, and I was like, hey, thanks, man. So that's always appreciated. It's pretty civil in the community. There's a couple people that might not get along with others, but for the most part, it's a good community.
There's only 37 people on the list. How many deer are killed in Ohio every year? 100,000, something like that?
Yeah.
80,000?
Yeah.
So just in our county, there's a couple thousand deer killed every year. And how many deer are lost that could have used a drone? Probably twice that number. I don't know exactly, but we do hear a lot about deer being shot and not recovered.
And this is something I want to talk about. Perfect segue for it, I guess. We know deep down inside that because unfortunately there's a lot of degenerates in hunting. We only hear about the bucks that get lost and shot. And has anyone called you for a doe yet?
Yeah.
That's good. I like to hear that because everyone's always talking about, well, I'll do anything I can to be the best hunter, the most ethical hunter I can until it's, wow, I put a shot pretty far back on a doe and I'm way back here in this thicket.
I don't want to push all my bucks out.
Do I call the $400 drone operator? Or I just not tell anyone and let it lay because you found dead does while we were doing it together. I find dead deer in the woods every year shed hunting. I find a handful of deer dead.
You guys found 2 dead does just near our property, right?
And I've already found 2 dead bucks shed hunting this year. So we know that a lot of guys aren't reporting that they're not going on Facebook and telling everyone, damn it, wounded another doe tonight.
I was walking back from my stand and took a 50-yard shot and he jumped the string and hit him in the ass.
Yeah, right. So you're only hearing about the bucks and you're probably either hearing only about first bucks killed by someone or the big ones. Some guy puts a marginal shot and I'm not trying to put hunters down. We're all in the same group, but some guy puts a marginal shot on a 100-inch 8-point. Are they calling for the drone? Are they gonna look around with their flashlight and then go back to their truck and go home? You know what I mean? Unfortunately, that
is the reality.
Because I find a lot of deer of that size dead in the woods every year. It's very unfortunate. It's nice that not to put your cost down, but eventually with more and more and more, it'll be a few $100. You'll be able to guarantee whether your deer is alive or dead instantly. Yeah. It's worth it to me. It'd be worth it to us.
That brings us to another thing. There's different models of drone that are capable of doing this. The one being 10,000 just for the drone. Then you got to get more batteries and all that, be able to fly nonstop. And then there's another option on the list. I think it uses the same camera with the Mavic 3T. It's got the same thermal capabilities. It's not weather rated though.
Right.
So it's not going to,
And that's
People shouldn't be flying them in rain and high winds because, I mean, the risk is just going to be a lot more to losing your drone. So,
but yeah, we fly this same drone at work, and we don't have a lot. Our drone team is relatively new, so we don't have a lot of experience. But talking to the DJI reps and everything, they say you can fly these literally in a thunderstorm, up to 40-mile-an-hour winds, pouring down rain. They say if you need to go find somebody, go out there and fly it.
Well, it's just like anything else, when these deer aren't, the tracking job for these deer isn't being lost on those perfectly crisp, nice days where there's a good blood trail. They're being lost because of snow, wind, rain, time of year. All this stuff is a factor. So being able to fly it in that stuff is huge.
Yeah.
So your time frame when people call you, do you want to be able to get there within 6 hours, 4 hours? If that deer dies right away, how long afterwards are you being able to find it?
If the deer dies, I've heard 48 hours after you can pick up the signature.
Pick it up.
Like that one I found close to here, it was the next day in the morning, so that deer had at least been dead 12 hours, and it was as bright, maybe even brighter than the other deer around it because it's laying on its side, catching all the sun.
Because you found that dead doe back there as well, and we don't know when that was shot. That could have been shot
it was opening day of gun season, so I'm assuming unless someone lost it archery hunting over the weekend, it was that morning someone shot it, or that evening.
Monday morning it could have been shot, or if it was before that.
It makes you think, we talk about, well, you can leave your deer overnight in the woods and still eat it. How many times have we had to butcher deer, or we butcher deer that were in the shop here even hanging in 40-degree weather that have been gutted, that around the joints and stuff we had to get rid of because
there was too much,
it didn't cool down, right? So it's a good and a bad thing. It's good for being able to find the deer. It's bad for if it's sitting in the woods, the meat might not be so hot, but figurative speech. But have you had any really bad interactions yet? I know eventually you're gonna have, when you have a business like yours, you're gonna have some guy that's gonna MF you and not want to pay and just get pissed.
Just on Facebook, really, the keyboard people. I've had people say I'd never hire a drone to do that. And it's like, that's fine.
There are some guys that have a hard stance. I was gonna get into it with the ethics and stuff. There's some YouTube groups out there. There's some other guys that have this really hard stance that they're not going to utilize this type of technology, whether it assists them to ethically recover a deer or not for hunting, which is interesting to me. But I mean, it is a stance that they want to take, and that's fine.
This will be one of the great debates going forward. You have the baiting debate, the crossbow debate, and now we're going to have the drone debate.
Yep. This will be debate. This will be number 3 that we talk about. Deer drives used to be a big one. That one's gone away. Deer drives was probably lumped in there too, but now people it seems like it's gaining some popularity again. But yeah, the drone thing is it's a big social media push right now.
Yeah, pet people really like us. I have a flyer. I drop it in lost pet groups and stuff. And last night, a lady actually was like, "Hey, drones scare huskies. They're a prey driving breed," or I forget the terminology she used, but she's basically saying drones are no good to find huskies. And I have a friend for making this map. His name's Zach, Eastern Ohio. He's been doing nonstop dog searches. He was hoping to do the deer thing, but he's making a killing right now searching for pets, and he's really good at it. He did one search for, he volunteered to do it.
Yeah.
Found the dog. The news came out. So after that aired, he just exploded.
Yeah,
I mean, people are calling him from all over the state to come find his dog. But, this lady was sitting there telling me, that's not good for finding huskies. It scares them. And then I tell him about it. He sends me a video of him finding a husky, and it's sitting there just staring up.
Even, when you got the drone, so what if it scares the dog? Where it's at.
Still find it.
Yeah, okay, my dog is safe and it's in that block of woods. Let's go over there and start calling.
On Facebook. This was, I dropped a flyer on somebody's missing 3 huskies in Medina, so I was just, dropping it there, hey, if you need my help, feel free to call. And then she jumped on me, and then another lady's like, "You don't care about animals. You trap with leg traps and blah, blah." So I just I blocked both of them, and I'm not entertaining that anymore. I'm just trying to help these people out. And
and that's definitely the way to go. It's all publicity is good publicity, right? So it doesn't really matter. But
and that's the problem with doing the pet searches. You get those people that really love their pets. You're going to get some extreme animal lovers in there that don't agree with the whole hunting thing.
You offer the hunting services as well, obviously.
And it's when you offer both services, I might be losing business, for pet searches because they see that I'm a hunter, but most people that own dogs hunt, they use them for hunting. So, but
it's not like
I'm not too worried about it. I'm not doing this for a living. I'm doing it. It's a lot of fun for one thing, but get a little extra cash on the side.
It's kind of like us right here with this. We don't rely on this for a living, so we can have as much fun with it as we want.
Exactly.
And I was curious about that. What you talk about scaring huskies and blah blah blah. What elevation are you flying this thing at when you're flying around? Is it different depending on the
At
terrain?
nighttime, I try to stay around 250 because
Okay.
that's where the spotlight, it's bright enough
So
to
that's
see.
the spotlight that goes on there is bright enough to see on the ground.
Yeah, from about 250, you could see clearly.
Is that built into there, or is that an extra?
See that bracket on the top?
Okay.
That's where the spotlight mounts. It's over in the case. I could grab it if you want.
No, I'll
but-
check that out afterwards.
When he was searching for birds' nests, Alex and them were at his dad's playing poker looking out the garage door. This like
There's UFO flying around.
yeah, right. They knew what was going on. They were hoping that, they were looking for updates, and they're like, man, they're still out there flying.
Yeah, because I was curious about that. Because once you do get up to about 300-400 feet,
Yeah.
you can't really hear it too loud anymore.
It's
just kind
not
of a little
loud at all.
buzzing.
Maybe the deer with the big old satellites on the side of their head can hear it.
And we have noticed when you're doing B-roll filming, like especially summer and springtime, like you fly over a herd of deer in the field, and they all like look
Oh,
up.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're
If
getting
we're
more
flying-
used to it, though. I think.
Definitely, the higher you are, the better off you are. And I think if you're like cruising towards them and then stop, the drone makes a loud like
Yeah,
noise.
yeah.
If
I know
you're
what
like
you're talking
gentle about it, some
it
deer
just-
don't even notice it, and some deer lock right onto it. If it's like windy out and they're in the woods, they definitely don't hear it.
Yeah, that night
know?
that we were watching, I remember when I was with you that there was that buck laying down. And he's just like looking all around, and
Yeah.
And
he
when
never looked up once.
When you are flying around, are you grid searching? Are you flying manually? Are you setting a grid in the drone to just automatically fly, or how are you doing that?
I'm flying manually, and I just start where they think they hit the deer. I'll go and look at that area real quick. If I don't find it, I'll just start grid searching the whole block
Okay.
of woods. I'll even look.
And
in
you kind of
fields.
go where you think maybe a deer would go. And
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Just where they. I mean, if they're like, "Hey, I think he went this way," I'll search over there for a bit, and if that don't work out, I'll just start grid searching the whole woods, just like you'd take a group of guys out there to do.
Do you prefer daylight or nighttime?
Daylight,
Yeah.
100%. The spotlight. I mean, I found deer at nighttime with the spotlight. It's just harder.
Yeah,
The battery doesn't last as long because you're running a high-powered spotlight, a little more weight on the drone. But the daytime is where it's at for sure. As long as, if it's really sunny, it could be difficult, like to go out early in the morning before the sun comes out.
So are
If
you
it's cloudy,
relying
it's
on
better.
the visuals or the thermal? Or are you kind of using
thermal,
both? You're
thermal,
using-
and then during daylight, it's easy just to flip over to the 200x
Oh,
camera.
so you hit a thermal like you see something on the thermal, then you hit to the regular camera and you can tell what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. So you use the thermal to find
Find
the
the-
deer initially.
and then flip over to the other camera and try to identify it.
has it opened your eyes to how many deer are around?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of deer.
I remember
In
when
this area.
that night we did it. It was just like 3 here, 4 there, 5 here, 10 here. They were all over the place.
What has surprised me too is I haven't seen a whole lot of coyotes.
Yeah, because
I might have found coyotes like 2 times, and that was just recently on both those tracks where I've seen coyotes in the vicinity. But I've flown. I have to look at my log, but it's a lot of hours, a lot of miles.
Yeah,
I put
But
on that
not a
drone.
lot of coyotes.
I found one of them was behind my house, just practicing one day. I seen a coyote back there.
we've noticed, because we run extensive trail camera operation in this area, I've had the same coyotes on camera 3 miles away. Because like the one summer we had a group of 3 coyotes that I was getting, let's just say here on our farm, and the one that was always in the lead of the, they kind of space out when they walk through the woods, but the one that was in the lead of the pack would never use his right front leg. That leg would never hit the ground. I got trail cameras 3 miles away, and that same group was coming through. Like, different
Doesn't
weeks and
surprise
stuff,
me.
but
They're
they're
just so
coyotes
nomadic.
are moving, and I think we did a fax one time. I think coyotes have a 20 square mile range or something. Like there's a lot of them, but they just never stop. They're not sedentary animals. They don't just hang out in an area. They're moving at all times.
Yeah. But I was wondering if maybe they're denned up when I'm flying. They could be in a den or something.
That is possible too. I mean, I know foxes. Around here, our foxes are always denned up. They don't.
Yeah.
We see the same fox. If you can hunt a certain tree stand that's near a fox den, you'll see that fox every time. They're in and out all day long.
They're definitely not hard to see as far as signature goes. I mean, they light up just like anything else. I'm seeing squirrels from 400 feet in the air.
We were finding when we were with you, we were finding possums and raccoons just walking down trails and stuff. But yeah. I want to get into when we get a chance here. I guess now would be a good time. I want to get into like the herd analysis stuff a little bit because that is something that I know could be controversial with some guys. There's a group of hunters that are all about having the recovery services, like wounded deer. Yes, let's make sure we do our due diligence. But when you start getting into, well, I'm gonna have you come out during right before the season and see where all my deer are bedding during the day and count my number of deer, and then come out in the evening and see how many are out in the fields. That starts to cross some lines with people, I think.
Yeah.
and I know I told you this when we were doing the track before, we had, because we're involved with fire department and search and rescue here locally, all this stuff, we've had the sheriff's department do trainings in the evening, and when they go up in the evening, we're watching with their drones, and it's very similar to that one. I think the sheriff's department might even have the same. I don't know.
They have a Matrice, so it's the older version of this, basically.
A little bit bigger, right?
Yes, and they've had it for like 10 years or something.
And I think Jimmy said they actually have a couple more now, but, they were able to fly up above our shop here and just, like, without going above the people with their camera, they were zooming in on a campground, and so you could see what kind of beer guys were drinking. And we'd go out in the field and you'd see a bachelor group of
and they weren't even really flying
through.
around. They were just zooming the camera in from all the way around.
So I think the herd analysis stuff is cool. I'll probably have you come out and do like a herd analysis on our property in September, say like 2 weeks before the season. When we're all out feeding in fields just for fun. See, we could have some fun with it. Throw some business your way. But I know there's a lot of guys that have a problem with that, and especially doing it in season,
Yeah.
Like if you're going to have a guy come out and fly on Saturday morning, show you where all the deer are, and then hunt the whole weekend, where's the ethical line in that,
Yeah.
Because the legal line is that it's fine. Once you leave, it's fine.
So let's talk about the legality. I had a question here. I wrote down the legalities. So we'll just talk hypothetically. If you know that somebody's hunting a giant deer, like where they hunt and everything, there's no legality saying that you can't go park on the side of the road and fly that drone over their property and see what deer they're talking about and all that, right? That's completely legal according to the FAA and all that.
You're opening a Pandora's box here with people. That
Obviously,
like the flash bulbs are going to start going off in people's heads. Like, wait a minute, you're right.
That's what I wanted. I wanted to bring up some controversial stuff, and that's going to be one of them. If you know where someone's hunting, you could just park on the side of the road, fly this thing up, find their big buck, find exactly where it is. And there's no legalities against that.
And you can see how close to property that you can get permission to hunt would be, or public. You'd be able to find out, like, oh, well, this deer's only half a mile from my one farm. Like,
this is going to go down the wormhole of what the ODNR is going to do about this in the future.
Yeah, my gut tells me there's going to be some restrictions coming out, but you never know.
You said the ODNR has a video out now?
Yeah, I saw it on one of the groups on Facebook.
Which I didn't see that.
I'll look into that to find the link so we can put it in the description of this video, But yeah, so my personal opinion, I think people are doing it, and I think they have been.
Yeah.
I think for the last couple of years, I think some big names, some big YouTube groups, some big TV hunters, all these guys, countrywide, and especially here in Ohio, because our laws are so lenient, have been doing that. They are acquiring knowledge of these bucks because they're going up in the evenings, and checking huge areas close to where they can hunt, or where they know they can hunt, or where they've heard rumors of where these bucks are, I don't want to throw any crazy names out there, and I know it's kind of hard with flying drones in the city and stuff, but Lee Ellis with Seek One, to be able to find that 215-inch buck in the needle in the haystack in the city of Columbus and pinpoint the exact properties he's using and get the exact trails he's using in daylight. I know that you can do the legwork and hunters can do that stuff, but he lives in Georgia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he's getting a lot of intel and finding these deer perfectly every single time. And there's nothing that says it's illegal to fly a drone and find that buck and know exactly.
Yeah, and go hunt him later.
3 nights in a row he's bed during the day in this lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting a pattern on this deer. I'm not saying that he's doing that. I have no evidence of anyone doing these guys, but if I can throw Chris a couple $100 a week, he can find me every buck in Medina County now if we want to, and there's nothing stopping us. Like, think about that.
That's the controversy.
Yeah,
right
think
now.
about that. Like.
Yeah.
And it's simply because the ODNR hasn't had a chance to catch up to the technology.
Chris could go park in a parking lot anywhere in this county and go find your buck. So if you think you're hiding a deer anywhere, me and Chris can find it now. Not saying, there's obviously a lot of ethics involved, and we love the fair chase stuff. People yell at us because we don't leave this farm sometimes, but.
Yeah, all that's caused me to draw up terms of service that I have that just for the herds.
Perfect.
If I'm not looking for a wounded buck, it's on there. It's like, hey, if I'm out here doing herd survey, you're saying that you're not going to go out and pursue the deer that day.
Yep.
Like, I'm just trying to cover my own, because I don't want to get in hot water with the DNR.
Yeah, and it's
pretty
a
much
lot
the
of
last thing I
things.
want to do.
A lot of things about hunting too. It's all about your morals and ethics. Like, obviously, the game wardens have a really hard time catching somebody poaching. So the only thing that's keeping us from doing anything illegal is just our morals and ethics.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the ability to find this stuff now it's wild.
I know you were talking about Sequin. I forgot to tell you the other day. Probably shouldn't say this on the air, but I don't care.
You can, since you edit this, you can decide whether.
Well, I could say it. I don't care. I have an inside source somewhere that I frequent that he has been here snooping.
Yeah, I mean,
not in our county, but a county close to ours.
We know that. Like we've talked about it a little bit. Like, we know the gig is up because around our area, these 200-inch bucks are falling like mad,
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting on the cover of North American Whitetail, and they're on Facebook, and they're on these groups. Like, it's no secret that there's these quality of deer around.
Seek one's been creeping.
I believe that.
I make you guys wonder without all the social media how good if we see a difference in the quality of deer around here now. Like, will we have some just mutants walking around if this place didn't get so much popularity?
It used to
over
be that way.
Yeah, it used to be.
It's in my house. Not that the shed's in my Freak Daddy's shed's in my house, but it used to be that way. When we were little kids, we would drive around our mom's van with the cameras out the windows and film 180-inch bucks in bean fields all the time. And that doesn't exist now because there's 20 guys on that road doing the same thing now. And then the drones and it just makes
social media may be to blame for that, but also just the popularity of hunting and all the deer that have been killed in Ohio over the past 10 years.
and technological advancements, cell cameras, automated feeders, drones, like all this crazy stuff. It's funny because it's made hunting easier, but it's become harder to kill big bucks, I think.
Yeah, because there's less of them out there.
Yeah, because they're getting killed earlier, or more people have access to them, so it's a more crowded pond, and I think it's gotten harder to kill big bucks over the last couple of years. That's my opinion on it,
Especially in our area.
Yeah.
I wanted to hit on the future. I know we've been talking about the ODNR and the rules, and we have no idea the rules that are going to come down. But the future of DJI, because there has been some hot topics lately, and we've talked about this a lot at work, because DJI is being banned in some states and in the federal government because it's a Chinese-owned, and all these drones are made in China that people are worried about Chinese spying and stuff. Do you have any input on that? Working for the FAA, knowing some of these things that you can share.
As long as it's legal here, in my opinion, they're still the best drones out there to use. They have been making some top tier drones for years and years and years. I mean, anyone that owns a drone, it's usually a DJI.
Yeah.
There's some other companies like Autel. There's a Japanese company. I would definitely entertain upgrading to a Japanese one if they can make one of similar quality for sure. I like to.
The Autel, I think I flew the Autel at work, but its quality is just nowhere. It's like it's like a
It feels
tin
flimsy.
can.
Do they feel like
the
a-
controller's like a tin can. It's just all.
If you
it's
fly
all
that
shit.
thing through a piece of fishing line, it'll snap in half. That's almost how it feels to me, But
Yeah.
those things are built like a tank. But people still break them.
I'm sure there will be an American company that starts making them.
I would assume,
But
gonna be a market
if
to fill.
it's $9,000 coming from China with that kind of labor,
it'd
it's
be
gonna
$100,000 here.
Yeah, it's going to be
Exactly.
expensive here to get that kind of technology, and how much of it has to be made in America for it to become an American company? We're still not making the cameras. We're still not supplying the plastics. So
Yeah, and that's-
it's like a car.
some
Everything's
of the-
made for them elsewhere. They're
I'll
just
be honest
assembled
with you.
here.
That's the nicest thing I've ever owned that was made in China. That I've bought. Everything
Yeah,
else
yeah.
I've been but that thing's been awesome. I gotta give it to them at least. That thing is top notch. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Some of the software stuff's a little weird. It's like
Yeah.
an Android type of system, but
Yeah.
other than that, I mean, I was surprised at how good the drone is coming from where it did. So,
Yeah, and when you just feel this thing, how heavy.
Yeah,
it's kind of amazing that this thing
Jurassic
flies.
Park quote. Is
Yeah.
it heavy? Yeah. Well, it's expensive.
Because it's probably it's probably 15 pounds, I would guess.
yeah, it is actually 12 to 15
Something like
somewhere
that.
in there. With
Yeah,
the
just-
spotlight, it might be like right about 13.
And it just buzzes around for 45 minutes on a battery, or
About 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, you were swapping them out pretty rapidly.
Yeah,
not
that
rapid,
wind.
But it's you'd fly 20 minutes and then have to come back and start beeping at you. You don't want that thing to go down in the woods randomly somewhere.
Yeah.
Like that would be.
I've cut it close a couple times where it literally is just descending because it's like, I got to get to the ground, and
We've
I've had
crashed
to land
a
it in
few.
undesirable spots. But
I haven't crashed my little one, knock on wood, but there has been some times. And sometimes where I'm like flying over trees and nice and fast, and all of a sudden the video just cuts out. I'm like, well, I don't know where it's at now. It eventually comes back.
Yeah.
my Air 2S, I was practicing landing like a mile away with it, and the signal cut out, and then I ended up finding it in the field right where I was trying to land it. But just having fun with a lot cheaper of a drone. I don't think I'd land that thing a mile away from where I was at,
Yeah,
though.
someone snagged that thing from you.
Well, I remember the big one was trout camp. Matt was taking a scenic backwards flying view of this river,
And this was
straight into a tree.
This was probably
Bam!
like 8 years ago. I think it was an original Mavic, so it was like the first one. So back then they were pretty expensive, and he crashed it. He was pretty pissed.
Dylan
off
had to
about
climb up. It got stuck in the tree. He hit the tree, and then it got stuck in the tree. And Dylan had to climb up a dead tree during trout camp and retrieve the drone.
Yeah.
But
I could send you guys some photos later. One of those sitting 60 foot in a tree.
Oh, my.
There was a lady in Streetsboro lost her little dog. My buddy on the east side of the state.
Yeah.
He was out there like 6-7 times. He tried to throw that job to me, and I was like, man, I'm too busy. He was somewhere up in, I I forget what county, but it was in Streetsboro.
Yeah.
But this lady, I mean, she had money, obviously, but she had him out 6 different times. She's like, bring another pilot with you today. So he was calling people on the list. They came out. So this guy was looking at a fox tent, so he descended real low. He hit the return to home button, and he was going through his photos, and the drone flew into a tree.
Yeah.
And then it was 60 foot up there.
Did she ever find her dog?
No, and
Because it got et.
They found he saw coyotes in the vicinity
Yeah, I mean,
the one night, and he even told her, he's like, ma'am, he's like, this doesn't look
was
good.
it a smaller dog?
Yeah.
Yeah, done. Toast.
Yeah, either got dog napped or got
But
Yeah, no one's
She-
stealing a small dog.
she spent about $3,000 plus having
Yeah,
those
I mean,
guys out. But I mean,
if
that's,
I lost Rhodey, my wife would spend every last penny we had trying to find
Yeah.
her. Which is nice knowing I could call you to find her for me
Yeah.
real quick if I need to.
But I mean, each time he went out, and he's kind of like, I hate to say this, but I don't feel too good about it. And she's like, I don't care. Just
Yeah.
keep
keep
coming.
searching.
Yeah.
But if we just go with our gut, like if something tells us like, hey, it's probably not a good idea to search, I'll tell people
Right.
that. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like that. I'm not gonna just be like, yeah, give me your money.
Right.
I like to help people when I feel like crap when I can't find your dog or your deer.
And I know, like, I talked to Matt a bunch about this. I know if he needs a drone guy again, he's calling you. Like,
Yeah.
100%. You're getting a return. You're getting a
Yeah.
return referral. And
Dude,
that's
we
how
had
it
a good
works.
time.
Yeah, we had, I used you, and then he was looking for a guy. I recommended you to him, and now he's going to use you no matter what. Like,
Yeah.
and then, anyone else in our little group's probably going to do the same. So
Yeah.
it works out well. You were impressed by the family trophy room.
Oh, yeah,
He got
I
to
loved
see.
it.
He got to
see the barn.
Yeah, he got to see the barn.
Ooh.
He's like, at first I don't think he knew how much we knew Matt. So he's kind of like, man, you ever seen his room over there? Like, yeah,
Yeah, we go way back.
yeah.
yeah,
He took me
He's-
on some of our first real hunts, like when we were kids, high school.
he's been busy.
Yeah, yeah. His dad kills a lot of them too, but most of them are him and his boys.
Yeah.
And his dad's got a bunch on there. His brothers killed some. It's the most impressive trophy room in this county.
Yeah, they got
hands down.
They have bison and elk, and I don't know if they got a moose in there and stuff. They got all sorts of.
I know there's a
crazy
bunch of
stuff.
elk. Now.
I've seen it. I saw another good one. I won't say who or where, but it's close to here, and it was pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
And just the amount of sheds. It's actually an outfitter, not the one here, but that way.
Ooh,
Boo.
ooh. Yeah.
Not
Has
that
he used you at all? Did he call you at all?
Yeah, twice this year.
Really?
Yeah,
On bucks?
yeah, both of
Did
them.
you find them?
I found one of them. Yeah.
Was
The
he
other
big?
one is
Was
the
he
one I
big?
searched 1,800 acres. Yeah, it was the biggest one I found.
Ah, dang.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah, we'll talk after
I'll send you guys some photos.
Yeah,
later.
we'll call
If you
after
want to put
the
them in the
game's go.
podcast, you can.
Well, I am going to need some I'll put some of you. I already have some video, and I'll ask you for some video to put in the intro. For
Yeah,
the video,
for
so
sure.
we can kind of show people. I like to do a little minute long intro. So
You could even take it out. And
I've been so I have
I
a
brought
plan.
batteries for a reason.
Yeah, I have a plan that I don't. You could really do something. I'm hunting today, not far from here, but I'll keep you. I'll keep you away from that area because I don't want to feel.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm doing anything weird. But one of our plans this year was, we've had problems in this area with people baiting turkeys during turkey season. We've gotten the game warden involved. We found feeders during turkey season. I don't like to. There's a lot of things that we won't narc on. People doing this, people doing that, but. But when we love hunting wildlife properly, and we love doing it by the letter of the law, and I really enjoy turkey hunting. And we found it, the one time we found a turkey feeder literally 10 feet off our property, and it was affecting our hunting. The turkeys were going over there in the morning.
Well,
the gobblers were
obviously, yeah.
all going.
Well, yeah,
so we had no choice but to report
we,
these guys.
we originally found that we were turkey hunting in
heard
the
it.
morning, and we heard the
And
feeder
we
go
all
off in the
instantly,
corn spread, and we're like,
we're all excited. Gobblers come in, we hear that, and it's just like, oh.
and then we see the turkeys go straight to the
They ran right to it. And then that guy admitted to already killing 3 gobblers over it. Like, it was a mess. I'm
Well,
like,
and a huge problem with that is we weren't allowed to hunt that side of the
Right.
farm anymore because the game warden was involved and they found the feed. They told us that we couldn't hunt, even though we had nothing to do with it. It wasn't our bait, but we weren't.
the game wardens did. I will give them credit. Our game warden was not available, but there were game wardens that came in and took care of the problem for us. Everything went well.
Good.
But when it comes to that, I'll let a lot slide here or there. I'm not Wyatt Earp getting everyone in trouble for everything they want to do.
Yeah,
but
snitches get
when,
stitches.
Yeah, but when you're doing something like that and you're affecting our hunting in an illegal way, we're going to get you. So turkey hunting is one of those things where, like, we've talked about taking this Isaac's drone out. right before season, because you're going to see a bait pile in the turkey woods when there's no leaves and muddy, disgusting. You'll find a bait pile in half a second. We've talked about doing that.
I found many bait piles with that.
Right. We've talked about doing it. We've never done it yet.
Those golden acorns glow from the sky.
Yeah, even if there's none left, the muddy swath of where they're throwing down birdseed or something,
Yeah.
But
is that what they were feeding? Was birdseed? Or
no,
was
they had a corn feeder. They had a $50
I'm surprised
corn
he
feeder.
fessed up to it and wasn't like, hey, I'm
within
taking pictures of deer.
It was within 50 yards of his house.
Yeah, it was just a residential
and we
lot,
had him
backyard.
dead to rights. We had video of gobblers running over there. Like, I mean, it was there was no.
I can't believe he admitted to killing turkeys over it though.
Well, you get strong armed by the law. It's
I
like,
guess.
We'll spend 2 years prosecuting you, or you can just admit to it right now. And we'll just get the tickets written.
Yeah, here's a $200 fine.
Yep. Wow. But yeah, so during turkey season, it made me think. That story made me think of. Yeah, we could have you come out in the evening, and we'll find every roosted turkey on every farm we have. Where's the legality of that?
A lot of turkeys too.
So they're
I
all
found a huge flock over near somewhere.
Well, they're in. Yeah, you want to see it?
And
I
not
guarantee you right now they're on my cell camera because that group of turkeys is just ridiculous. But that's the thing. Like,
do they show up thermally very well or no? They do.
Yeah, they look like a bunch of raccoons in the tree.
Yeah, do they look like that? Because that's them.
Yeah, yeah, they look like that.
Yeah, so like during turkey season, the turkeys spread out more and they're kind of easier to find. They're not as flocked up like that. You could put the drone up in the evening and tell me where they're roosting. Like I could find the turkeys on the roost and know where. And I wouldn't do that because I don't like that. But like it's possible.
Yeah, the wormhole with the drones is going to be interesting to watch.
And that's something I'm sure someone's listening to this that has never even thought about drones before. Because there's like when I told Bob like, hey, let's call a drone or something, and he's like, wait, what? What's that? And then like now here we are. But there's a lot of guys that are going to be listening that are going to be like, I didn't even think about any of this stuff. And I'm sure eventually...
This is the shit we lay down at night and think about because...
Yeah, because we're just nerds.
Yeah.
But like, think about... And I know there's probably some law enforcement guys listening and, potentially some wildlife guys like, what are we going to do in the future to make this... Because I agree that these guys should be able to help us find deer. That we should do everything we can to find a wounded deer legally and ethically. But like, where does the line...
Yeah,
where do you draw the line?
The line has to be drawn somewhere.
And like you said, you got extra batteries, so like we can go fly this for fun right after this. I'm hunting not very far from where we're sitting right now, and I don't want to know if he's going to be there or not. You know what I mean? And we could go fly and find him right now, and it would change the whole scope of tonight's hunt. But then it's like, man,
owning a drone kind of changes your attitude too. It's like, do I want to go sit there tonight? It's like, well, maybe we should go find out if I want to sit there tonight.
Yeah, that's the exact thing that we talk about.
It's an inner battle, and it's
that temptation.
It's honestly kind of taking some of the fun out of hunting, where it's like, should I go waste my time over there?
It's like being an alcoholic and having all this sit right next to you. Like, if this isn't here, there's no chance you're drinking it. But if you're an alcoholic and you're sitting here looking over there, like, I can have anything I want at any time.
It's the same thing where we live. Even when you start talking about public land, I know we haven't talked about public land at all, but where we live, there's not much public land, and the public land that is here, it's pretty small pieces.
You could fly it in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you can go fly that whole public land, see if there's any deer there. If there's not, obviously you're not going to go hunting. But that's the crazy thing with these drones. And
I've also seen a handful of hunters complaining that drones flying over them while they're trying to hunt.
Yeah, I saw just recently on Facebook about that.
So that was the Veneri effect. It's another... I'm pretty sure you're probably talking about the Veneri effect. They're another YouTube channel similar in size to us.
That's probably the post I saw.
They have a huge anti-drone stance. They're hunters. They're good old boys. I like their stuff. They're Ohio guys, so they're somewhat local. They do a very good job with the filming. I know they're doing a lot of trapping stuff right now. We always go back and forth, liking each other's Instagram stuff all the time. They have a very hardline anti-drone stance, and they brought it up on their stuff. And a couple years ago, it happened to me. This is before the big drone craze. So back before even these drones were around, it's probably 2017-ish.
Yeah, it was just the little drones, no thermal cameras, nothing like that.
I was hunting. I think it was like the day after Thanksgiving. I was bow hunting. Maybe it was even Thanksgiving. I don't know. It was somewhere around Thanksgiving time. And, I was hunting in a blind over food plot on our property, and a drone came into the food plot, flew around for like a minute, and then flew away. And I knew two people at that time that had drones. One was local, it was Spaniel and Alex. Both were local, both had drones. Hey, you guys fucking with me? Like, texting them. They're like, nah, man, I'm at family dinner. No, man, I'm at work. And it's like, well, some asshole just flew a drone into our food plot, looked around, and flew away. Like, fuck. And we never found out who it was. So somewhere around here, someone is scoping and has been scoping our food plots for at least 7 years now.
And it's perfectly legal. You didn't do anything wrong.
And it might have been a Christmas present or maybe family getting together on Thanksgiving. Hey, we got this drone. Hey, let's go fly around.
See if we can find
could have been
wildlife
as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Or there was a hunter who thought maybe we were still in West Virginia. Let's go check out all Simon's food plots real quick, flying around. Because that's been in the back of my mind for a long time now. Like, I know that there's guys that have scoped our properties with a drone before. I've watched it happen once. That's only the time that I saw it happen. It's happened. I'm sure it's happened after that, and that's happening to a lot of guys. You know, It used to be, you know, go out to Iowa. All these farms. You know, Lee and Tiffany, Bill Winke, the Drurys. They have all these farms now, and they're doing all this stuff.
And Iowa's one of the states where it is legal, but Illinois, I think it's illegal for drones. I'm not sure.
But they could go fly and look at Mark Drury's farm, every inch of it.
Yeah, and there's no laws against it.
Nope.
Because the air
mind-blowing.
And you would obviously know as an FFA, whatever you are, that
air traffic controller.
Air traffic controller, that's the word. That airspace is all public, as long as you're not in restricted airspace by an airport.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as you're not above 500 feet or flying within airport's airspace, you're good.
And all it takes is $9,000. I mean, you can, and like I said, like these big outfits, that's nothing. They're spending that in a month in feed.
Yeah.
You know, so
shameless plug, if you are watching on YouTube or listening to us, comment your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I would love to have some feedback. This would be a great one for
And it doesn't matter what it is. If it's positive, negative, just comment, and we'll reach back out to you to see what our audience thinks about this.
Yeah, I always try to reach out to every comment, even if it's a nasty one. I like the nasty ones.
The nasty ones are the most
The nasty ones are fun. My favorite one is, where are you at? What county are you in? Like, no. Like, don't ask me that. But, like, you know, give us your opinion, and we'd love to hear about it. This is a rising topic in the outdoor industry, and we've said some things today that are going to get wheels spinning for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, wait, you know, like, I never thought of that.
Well, all I did was drop a flyer on a missing pet website, and I got attacked by 2 people last night.
Yeah. So if you are that passionate about it, feel free to attack us, and we'll comment back and open a discussion.
And if you're real nasty, I'll just send you Chris's way, and he'll ban you or block you.
Yeah.
You're running a YouTube channel now as well?
Yeah. It's obviously not very big. I have 2 videos on there, but yeah, I'm starting to record my content and just piece together the videos and put it on there just to have.
And it's the same Skyhound Drone Services on YouTube. So we'll check.
logo.
We'll link that in the bottom description.
I have a website, skyhounddrone.com. I'm just trying to get everywhere. You know, just get a little bit of just get yourself out there. You know.
Yeah, cool. That's what you got to do.
I went through all the stuff I had written down. Caleb, you have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I had written down was, you know, do you think they're being used under the table more often? Do people call you for does? And we ended up covering both those things during the conversation.
Yeah.
You know, my opinion is that they are being used more often, and just it's one of those like there's literally probably a guy out there that's large in the industry going, shut the fuck up, man. Fuck. You know, blowing and you know, we have a small audience when it comes to the podcast right now, but eventually this is going to be a bigger topic covered by some bigger guys if it hasn't already a few times. I know it's kind of been dabbled, but I didn't find too much on a search on like hunting usage of drones and all that. So
while we got you on in air traffic controller, do you see any problems with drones on a daily basis?
No.
The football game got shut down yesterday, one of them.
I saw that.
Yeah, because someone was flying a drone too close.
I'm all high altitude stuff. I'm not at an airport. I'm at they call it a center or an ARTCC.
Okay.
So
you're not really you're not monitoring the planes coming in. You're kind of controlling them.
Towers will get them up off the ground, and then they'll climb. You know, tower zone to about 10,000 feet. That would be definitely more of a tower/terminal problem, I would say, but I'm sure they do have issues with drones.
Do you know anybody that works a tower or something like that?
Yeah, I do know plenty of controllers. Never really asked them if they had issues with drones.
Maybe we'll get you on again.
I did turn down one job. The guy literally I asked him if he shot the deer off the runway at Akron, Canton, because he showed me where. And
it was like right next door.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, you can usually get permission to fly in there. I was like, but that's in the 0 zone. You can't even fly there. I was like, I'm sorry. And then I was like, I would just give it some time. He ended up going in there and finding it. So it's like, man, I wish I would have just went and found it, but you can't break the law to do it. But the temptation to do things sometimes can be a little overwhelming, but you just got to use some common sense sometimes.
It's overwhelming me right now because you have this thermal drone here. I can go see if my buck is bed where I want him to be.
Yeah.
But I guess a good final ending conversation would be to lighten it up a little bit and have a little fun. When we were doing our pre-roll talking, you said that you guys have been seeing some unknown lights. Pilots have been seeing lights up in the sky.
Yeah.
We don't know what they are. So the UFOs are out there, guys. Keep your eyes open. Do you guys have anything in place for this big eclipse coming? Like, is there?
There's been briefings about it.
I've
seen a lot of police briefings. You know,
yeah.
Because my uncle's a police officer up in Avon Lake.
Okay.
So they're expecting a lot of
I think
up
Bob's son is a police officer in Avon Lake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he
Okay.
probably knows your uncle.
Apparently, the traffic in this area, like people traveling to this area, is supposed to be insane.
Million.
Yeah, they're thinking millions.
Over a million.
Millions.
Because they think the Cleveland suburb area is like the mecca of where it's going to be able to be seen the best.
So like I know, and I can't be involved in it because I'll be on FMLA for my baby leave, so I'll be out at that time. But there's we're bringing in like 3 extra trucks worth of people at work and running shifts and like extra manning for everyone, because it's not so much they're worried about the people at all. It's just they're bringing 1 million people in. Every other city department's going to be busy as well. So every other fire department and police department is going to be very busy. So let's just say you do get a second alarm fire or a big gas spill or some bullshit happens, we're not gonna be able to call very much mutual aid because they're gonna be occupied with their own shit, So that kind of thing is why we're kind of looking into it. But yeah, I didn't know if the FAA. I'm sure as it gets closer, you guys will have, because people are gonna be flying drones that day.
Yeah.
I've noticed in the last couple of years, fireworks displays. Whenever like I go to like the Spencer 4th of July fireworks or the fireworks at Medina County Fair, there's like 10 drones buzzing around the whole time.
People are
like
trying to
you're
get
not
that
supposed
cool
to be
footage.
doing that, but how are you gonna stop them?
Yeah, I don't know if I should say this or not, but I took my Air 2S to the Spencer Festival, and I flew it through the explosion.
Was it pretty sweet?
I was ready for it to go down. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
I got the footage somewhere. I'll send that to you
Yeah. We'll
sometime
put
if you
that in the
want,
intro of the video because
yeah, my drone had burn marks on it. I mean,
yeah.
that just tells you how
we
close it
got
was.
for the Spencer ones, since we were doing fire detail, we were like when they were doing the fire bombs from the ground, it was like burning our face. Like we were so close to that, it was
Yeah.
hot on our face.
Yeah.
That was an awesome show. Like, that
Yeah,
show was
Spencer always puts on a good.
awesome. Yeah, kudos Tim Mennel and you guys.
Yeah,
Cheek and all the guys involved with that. Keep that going because fireworks are cool.
We're at about an hour. I think we're exactly an hour right now. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. This is Deer Shot Podcast, and we are out.
Out.